When a billionaire's money can't buy what he wants most, what happens when a desperate woman says no? Tonight, you're about to hear a story about power, desperation, and the moment everything changed. A man who controlled billions, a woman who had nothing left to lose, and one impossible deal that would destroy them both, or save them. Stay with me until the very end of this journey. Hit that like button right now, and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels across the world. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. The rain came down like bullets against the windows of the Peninsula Hotel's penthouse suite, 43 floors above Chicago's Michigan Avenue. Nathan Cole stood with his back to the room, hands in his pockets, watching the storm tear through the city below. Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the lake in brief, violent flashes. He didn't turn around when he heard the door open. "Mr. Cole?" A woman's voice, uncertain. "I'm Lena Carter." "I know who you are," Nathan said, still facing the window. His reflection in the glass showed a man in his early 30s, sharp-featured, wearing a suit that cost more than most people made in 6 months. "You're 20 minutes late." "The cab got stuck in traffic. The storm. I don't care about the weather." Nathan turned around slowly, and for the first time he looked at her directly. Lena Carter stood just inside the doorway, soaked through despite the cheap umbrella she clutched in one hand. Her dark hair was plastered to her face. Her jacket, worn at the elbows, probably the nicest thing she owned, dripped water onto the marble floor. She was younger than he expected, maybe 30, with tired eyes that had seen too much, and a jawline set with stubborn pride. She looked like someone barely holding on. Good, Nathan thought. Desperate people made better deals. "Sit." He gestured to the leather chair across from his desk, a massive thing of dark wood that dominated one corner of the suite. Lena hesitated, then moved forward, leaving wet footprints across the floor. She sat on the edge of the chair, spine rigid, hands gripping her purse like it might float away. Nathan walked to his desk and opened a folder. "Carter Manufacturing. Founded 1967 by your grandfather, Thomas Carter. Currently run by your father, Robert Carter, who, according to my research, is dying of heart disease and has approximately 8 months to live. The factory employs 2,300 workers in a town of 6,000 people. Without it, the entire town collapses." He looked up. "Did I miss anything?" Lena's face had gone pale. "How did you—" "I know everything about everyone I do business with." Nathan closed the folder. "Your company is drowning. Your father trusted the wrong partner, Marcus Webb, who embezzled $4 million and fled to the Cayman Islands 6 months ago. Your banks won't extend credit. Your equipment is failing. You've got 3 weeks, maybe 4, before you can't make payroll." He leaned back against his desk. "Am I wrong?" "No." The word came out barely above a whisper. "Then you understand why you're here." Lena lifted her chin. "Your assistant said you might be interested in investing, in saving the company." Nathan almost smiled. "My assistant said that because I told her to. But let's be clear about something, Miss Carter. I don't invest in dying companies and dying towns. I don't do charity. I do acquisitions. We're not for sale. Everything's for sale." Nathan picked up a glass of scotch from his desk, swirled it once. "The question is price." "Then what's your price?" Lena asked. Her voice shook slightly, but she held his gaze. Nathan took a slow drink, studying her over the rim of his glass. He'd done this before. Watched people squirm, watched them calculate how much they were willing to sacrifice. It was his favorite part, the moment right before they broke. $10 million, he said. "Transferred tonight. Enough to pay your debts, repair your equipment, cover payroll for a year while you rebuild. Full operational control stays with your father. I don't touch management. I don't sit on your board. The money is yours, free and clear." Lena's eyes widened. That's more than generous. That's... "In exchange," Nathan continued, cutting her off, "you give me 30 days. The room went very quiet. Even the rain seemed to pause. "I don't understand," Lena said slowly. "I think you do." Nathan set down his glass. 30 days. You here with me. At the end of that time, you go home. The money stays. Your company survives. Everyone wins. The color drained from Lena's face. "You're asking me to—" "I'm not asking anything. I'm making an offer." Nathan's voice was flat, businesslike. You're an adult. You understand what I'm proposing. You accept or you don't. But if you walk out that door without accepting, you won't get another chance. Not from me. Not from anyone. Lena stood up so fast the chair scraped against the floor. You think you can buy me? I think I can buy anything. Nathan didn't move. The question is whether you're willing to sell. Go to hell. She turned toward the door. Think about those 2,000 people, Miss Carter. Nathan's voice stopped her mid-step. Think about the families, the children, the elderly couple who worked at that factory for 40 years and have nothing saved for retirement. Think about your father, watching everything he built turn to dust in his last months of life. He paused. Think about what happens when you say no. Lena stood frozen, her back to him, one hand on the door handle. This is who you are? She asked quietly. This is what having money makes you? Money doesn't make me anything. Money reveals what was always there. Nathan walked closer, stopping a few feet behind her. Everyone judges people like me until they need what we have. Then suddenly, morality gets complicated. So don't stand there and pretend you're better than this, because you came here, didn't you? You put on your nicest clothes and rode through a storm to sit in my hotel room because you need what I can give you. Lena turned around and Nathan saw tears on her face, though her expression was hard. I came here because I thought you were a businessman. I thought maybe you saw value in what we built. I didn't think, her voice cracked. I didn't think you were just another monster who thinks everything has a price. It does. Not me. She yanked open the door. Not ever. And then she was gone, the door slamming behind her with enough force to rattle the frame. Nathan stood alone in the suite, listening to the rain, feeling nothing at all. 3 hours later, Lena sat in her motel room on the outskirts of Chicago, staring at her phone. The room was the cheapest she could find, $49 a night, with stains on the carpet and a heater that rattled like it had tuberculosis. She'd spent the last of her cash on the cab ride here from Nathan's hotel. She had $17 left in her wallet and a maxed-out credit card. Her phone showed 43 missed calls, 19 from her father, 14 from union representatives, 10 from workers she'd known her entire life. She couldn't answer any of them. Instead, she pulled up her banking app and stared at the numbers. Carter Manufacturing's operating account, $43,128.67. Payroll was due in 12 days. They needed $340,000. Lena closed the app and opened her photos. The most recent one showed the factory floor, her father standing among the workers during last month's town hall meeting. He looked so small, so sick, his skin gray under the fluorescent lights. But he was smiling, still trying to project strength. Behind him, Lena could see faces she'd known her whole life. Maria Gonzalez, who'd worked quality control for 30 years and had 5 grandchildren. Tommy Chen, barely 22, who'd just gotten married and bought his first house. Old Frank Morrison, who'd been her grandfather's best friend and still came to work every day, even though his hands shook so badly he could barely hold a wrench. These weren't numbers in a spreadsheet. These were people. Her phone buzzed. A text from her father. Lena, please call. We need to know what happened. The bank called again. Sweetheart, we're running out of time. She typed back, I'm working on it. Don't worry, a lie. She had nothing. No plan, no backup, no miracle waiting in the wings. Lena threw her phone onto the bed and walked to the window. Outside, the storm had passed, leaving the city wet and gleaming under the streetlights. Somewhere out there, Nathan Cole was in his luxury suite, probably not thinking about her at all, probably already moving on to his next acquisition, his next deal, his next victim. What kind of man makes an offer like that? What kind of person looks at someone's desperation and sees an opportunity? But even as she thought it, another voice whispered in the back of her mind, what kind of person lets 2,000 families suffer because she's too proud to make a sacrifice? No, Lena said aloud to the empty room. No, there has to be another way. She grabbed her laptop and spent the next 2 hours searching for options. Emergency loans, government programs, other investors. But everywhere she looked, the answer was the same. Too much risk, too little time, too small a return. At 2 a.m., her phone rang. Her father. Lena stared at it for a long moment before answering. Dad. Thank God. Robert Carter's voice was thin, exhausted. Lena, where are you? Are you still in Chicago? Yeah, I'm staying overnight. The meeting ran late. How did it go? Will he invest? Lena closed her eyes. I don't know yet. We're still negotiating. What does he want? The terms can't be worse than what we're facing now. You have no idea, Lena thought. Dad, how are you feeling? She asked instead. Don't change the subject. I'm fine. We need to talk about the company. You're not fine. You were in the hospital last week. A minor episode. The doctors are managing it. She heard him take a shaky breath. Lena, I need you to be honest with me. Is there a deal or not? Lena stood up and walked to the window again, pressing her forehead against the cold glass. In the reflection, she looked like a ghost. He made an offer, she said carefully. And? I turned it down. Silence. Then, why? Because his terms were unacceptable. Lena. Her father's voice shifted, taking on the tone he used when he was about to say something difficult. Whatever he asked for, control of the board, majority ownership, harsh performance metrics, we can negotiate. It's not that kind of deal, Dad. Another pause. Then what kind of deal is it? Lena couldn't answer. How could she explain it? How could she tell her father that a billionaire had looked at her like she was just another asset to acquire? Lena. Her father's voice was gentle now. What did he ask for? It doesn't matter. I said no. I'll find another way. There is no other way! Robert Carter's shout dissolved into coughing, harsh and wet. When he could speak again, his voice was ragged. I've been doing this for 40 years. I've called in every favor, begged every bank, mortgaged everything we own. There is no other way. Lena felt tears on her face. Dad! Whatever he wants, whatever the cost, we'll pay it. Do you understand? We don't have a choice anymore. There's always a choice. No, sweetheart. Sometimes there isn't. Her father's voice broke. I'm dying, Lena. The doctors give me 6 months, maybe 8, if I'm lucky. And I'm going to spend what's left of my life watching everything my father built, everything I've spent 40 years protecting, turn to ash. I'm going to watch this town die. I'm going to watch families lose their homes, their futures, everything, unless you make this deal. Dad, please don't. I'm not asking you to understand. I'm asking you to save them, however you can, whatever it costs. He coughed again. Promise me, Lena. Promise me you'll do whatever it takes. Lena sank down onto the bed, her whole body shaking. I can't. You have to. You don't know what you're asking. I know exactly what I'm asking. I'm asking my daughter to be stronger than I was, braver than I was, to make the hard choice I couldn't make. Her father's breathing was labored. I failed you, Lena. I trusted Marcus. I didn't see the warning signs. I let this happen. And now I'm asking you to fix my mistake. I know it's not fair. I know it's too much, but please, please. Lena pressed her fist against her mouth to keep from sobbing out loud. I love you, sweetheart, her father whispered. Whatever happens, I love you. The line went dead. Lena sat in the dark motel room for a long time, not moving, barely breathing. Outside, a siren wailed past. A car door slammed. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that somewhere, someone's entire world was collapsing. She picked up her phone and scrolled through her photos again. The factory, the workers, her father, her grandfather's portrait hanging in the office. 60 years of history. 60 years of families fed, children raised, lives built. All of it resting on her shoulders now. Lena thought about Nathan Cole's cold eyes, his casual cruelty, the way he'd spoken about human beings like they were numbers on a balance sheet. She thought about what he'd asked for. 30 days of her life, 30 days of humiliation, of being treated like property, of becoming exactly what he thought she was, something to be bought and used. Could she do it? Could she sacrifice herself like that? More importantly, could she live with herself if she didn't? At 3 a.m., Lena made her decision. She didn't pray about it. She didn't write it down. She didn't call anyone for advice. She simply stood up, splashed cold water on her face, and grabbed her phone. Nathan Cole's business card was still in her jacket pocket, slightly damp from the rain. She stared at the number for a full minute before dialing. He answered on the second ring. I was wondering when you'd call. The offer, Lena said, her voice steady despite everything. Is it still on the table? It is. $10 million. The company stays independent. My father keeps control. You don't interfere with operations. That's the deal. Lena closed her eyes. And 30 days? That's all you want? That's all. And at the end, I can go home? At the end, you walk away. Clean break. The money stays with your company. We never see each other again. It sounded too simple, too clean. Lena knew it wouldn't be. Nothing with men like Nathan Cole was ever simple. I need something in writing, she said. A contract. Terms. Guarantees. My lawyers will have everything ready by tomorrow morning. I want to review it before I sign. Of course. Nathan's voice was smooth, professional. Anything else? Yeah? Lena opened her eyes. I want you to know that I hate you. I want you to know that this doesn't make you powerful. It makes you pathetic. And I want you to know that 30 days from now, when I leave, I'm going to forget you ever existed. Silence. Then, noted. Be at my suite tomorrow at 10 a.m. Don't be late. He hung up. Lena stood in the motel room, phone in hand, and tried to remember how to breathe. She'd just agreed to sell herself to a monster. She'd just traded 30 days of her life for the survival of 2,000 families. She'd just crossed a line she never thought she'd cross. And the worst part, the part that made her stomach turn, was that a small, terrible part of her felt relieved. Because at least now she had a plan. At least now she could save them, even if it destroyed her in the process. The next morning, Lena arrived at Nathan's suite at exactly 10 a.m. She'd gone shopping at a discount store, using the last of her credit to buy clothes that didn't look like she'd been sleeping in them. Dark jeans, a simple blouse, enough to look presentable without looking like she was trying too hard. Nathan's assistant, a severe woman in her 50s named Margaret, met her at the door and led her to a conference table where 3 lawyers sat with a stack of documents. Nathan wasn't there. Mr. Cole is on a call, Margaret said crisply. He'll join us shortly. In the meantime, please review the contract. Lena sat down and started reading. The document was 23 pages long, dense with legal language, but the core terms were clear. Nathan would transfer $10 million to Carter Manufacturing's operating account within 24 hours of Lena signing the agreement. In exchange, Lena would remain in Chicago, available to Nathan, for 30 consecutive days. She would have her own bedroom in the suite, her own bathroom, freedom to come and go during daylight hours. But she would be expected to have dinner with Nathan every evening and to spend her nights in the suite. There was no mention of sex, no explicit demands, just companionship and availability. Lena looked up at the lawyers. What does availability mean? The lead lawyer, a man with silver hair and dead eyes, didn't blink. Whatever Mr. Cole requires during the contracted period. That's not specific enough. Mr. Cole prefers flexibility in his arrangements. I prefer clarity. Lena pushed the contract back across the table. Either this gets more specific, or I walk. The lawyers exchanged glances. One of them stood and left the room. 5 minutes later, Nathan walked in. He looked different in daylight. Younger, maybe, or just more human. He wore jeans and a black sweater, no tie, no armor of expensive fabric. His dark hair was slightly messy, like he'd been running his hands through it. Problem? He asked, looking at Lena. Your contract is vague. It's intentionally vague. Then we don't have a deal. Lena stood up. I'm not signing something that gives you carte blanche to do whatever you want for 30 days. Nathan dismissed the lawyers with a wave. They filed out quickly, closing the door behind them. Sit down, Nathan said. I'm leaving. Sit down, Miss Carter, please. The please surprised her. Lena sat. Nathan took the chair across from her, leaning back, studying her with those cold, calculating eyes. You want specifics? Fine. Here are the specifics. You'll live here in this suite for 30 days. You'll have your own room. You won't be locked in. You can leave during the day, shopping, walking, whatever. But you'll be here for dinner every night at 7 p.m. After dinner, we'll spend the evening together. Talking, watching movies, playing chess. I don't care. At midnight, you can go to bed. Your room alone. Lena frowned. That's it? That's it. You're paying $10 million for someone to have dinner with you? I'm paying $10 million for 30 days of your time. What we do with that time is negotiable. And if you want more than dinner, Nathan's expression didn't change. Then I'll ask, and you'll say yes or no. And if you say no, I'll respect it. Why should I believe that? Because if I wanted to force you, I wouldn't need a contract. I'd just take what I wanted and deal with the consequences. He leaned forward. But that's not what this is about. Then what is it about? Honestly? Nathan smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I don't know yet. Maybe I just want to see if someone like you can be bought. Maybe I want to prove that everyone has a price. Maybe I'm just bored. He shrugged. Does it matter? Lena wanted to hit him. She wanted to scream that yes, it mattered, that you couldn't just treat people like experiments, like entertainment. But she didn't, because screaming wouldn't change anything. Add a clause, she said instead. Add a clause that says I have complete autonomy over my own body, that any physical contact requires my explicit consent, that I can say no at any time, for any reason, with no consequences. Nathan considered this. Fine, but you add a clause too. You agree to make a genuine effort, no sulking in your room, no refusing to talk. You show up, you participate, you give this a real shot. Otherwise, what's the point? The point is saving my company. The point, Nathan said, is figuring out if you're as principled as you pretend to be, or if you're just like everyone else. Lena met his gaze. You really do hate people, don't you? I don't hate them. I just don't trust their fairy tales about integrity and honor. Everyone breaks eventually. Everyone compromises. I'm just honest about it. You're not honest. You're cynical. Same thing. No, it's really not. Nathan stood up and called his lawyers back in. Add 2 clauses, one giving Miss Carter complete bodily autonomy with explicit consent requirements, one requiring her genuine participation in the arrangement. Have the revised contract ready in 30 minutes. The lawyers nodded and disappeared again. Nathan looked at Lena. Anything else? When do I get the money? As soon as you sign. The transfer will be immediate. Lena nodded slowly. This was really happening. She was really going to do this. For what it's worth, Nathan said, walking to the window, I respect what you're doing. It takes courage to sacrifice yourself for other people. Don't, Lena said sharply. Don't act like you understand. You're not capable of sacrifice. You've never had to choose between yourself and the people you love. So don't stand there and talk about courage when you're the one forcing this choice. Nathan turned back to her. For just a moment, something flickered across his face. Anger, maybe, or pain. But it was gone so fast Lena couldn't be sure it had been there at all. You're right, he said quietly. I don't understand. That's why I want to see if it's real. Before Lena could respond, the lawyers returned with the revised contract. She read through it carefully this time, checking every word, every clause. Everything was there. The money, the terms, the protections. It was as fair as a fundamentally unfair agreement could be. I need to make a call first, Lena said. Nathan gestured to a corner of the room. Take your time. Lena walked away and dialed her father. He answered immediately. Lena? Dad, I'm about to sign a contract. An investor is giving us $10 million. Oh, thank God. Her father's relief was palpable. What are the terms? Nothing you need to worry about. The company stays independent. You stay in control. The money is yours. What's the catch? No catch. I need to stay in Chicago for a month to help finalize everything. A month? Her father sounded confused. Can't you do that remotely? Not this. I have to be here. Silence. Then, Lena, what's really going on? I'm saving the company, Dad, like you asked me to. Not like this. Not if it costs you something you can't afford to lose. It's already done. Lena blinked back tears. I made my choice, and I need you to trust that I know what I'm doing. Sweetheart, I love you, Dad. I'll call you tomorrow. She hung up before he could argue. Nathan was watching her when she turned around. Ready? Lena walked to the table, picked up the pen, and signed her name at the bottom of the contract. Her hand didn't shake. Her eyes didn't water. She signed like she was filing paperwork, like this was just business, like she wasn't selling 30 days of her life to a stranger. Nathan signed opposite her, his signature a quick, careless scrawl. Done, he said. He pulled out his phone, typed something, and showed her the screen. Money's transferred. Check your account. Lena pulled up her banking app. There it was, $10 million in Carter Manufacturing's account. Real, immediate, impossible. She'd actually done it. "Welcome to the next 30 days, Miss Carter," Nathan said. He didn't offer his hand, he didn't smile. He just walked back to the window and stared out at the city. Lena stood in the middle of the suite, holding her phone, watching $10 million flash on the screen, and wondered if she'd just saved her company or sold her soul. She suspected she was about to find out. The first thing Lena did after Nathan left the suite was call the factory. She sat on the edge of the leather couch, phone pressed to her ear, listening to it ring. Outside the windows, Chicago spread out in every direction, steel and glass and concrete, a city of people who didn't know her name and wouldn't care if they did. "Carter Manufacturing, this is Beth." The receptionist's voice was familiar, comforting. "Beth, it's Lena. Is my dad available?" "Oh, honey, he's in a board meeting with the union reps. They're discussing the layoff timeline." Beth's voice dropped. "It's not going well. Everyone's pretty upset." "Tell him to stop the meeting. Tell him to check the company account." "What? Lena, I don't—" "Just tell him, Beth, please, right now." There was a pause, then the sound of Beth's chair scraping. "Hold on." Lena waited, counting her heartbeats. 15, 20, 30. Then she heard shouting in the background. Not angry shouting, shocked shouting, confused. Someone was crying. "Lena?" Her father's voice came on the line, breathless. "Lena, what did you do?" "I told you. I found an investor." $10 million just appeared in our account. $10 million. Nobody gives that kind of money without— He stopped. "What did you promise him?" "Nothing that concerns the company." "Lena Marie Carter, don't you dare lie to me." She almost smiled. He only used her full name when he was serious. "I'm not lying, Dad. The company is safe. That's all you need to know." "No, it's not all I need to know. You're my daughter. If you sold something you shouldn't have sold—" "I didn't sell anything I can't get back." The lie came easier than she expected. "I just need to stay in Chicago for a month to finalize some things. That's all." Her father was quiet for a long moment. "You're not telling me something." "I'm telling you everything that matters. The money's real. The company's saved. You can make payroll. You can fix the equipment. You can keep everyone employed." Lena's voice caught. "Isn't that what you asked me to do?" "Not like this." "Exactly like this." Lena stood up and walked to the window, looking down at the street 43 floors below. "You told me to do whatever it takes. So I did. And now I need you to trust me." She heard her father breathing on the other end, heard the sound of people talking in the background, heard the factory humming through the phone line, that familiar mechanical rhythm that had been the soundtrack of her entire childhood. "Okay," he said finally. "Okay, but Lena, if something goes wrong, it won't. But if it does, you call me. You hear me? You call me and I'll come get you, money or no money." "I will, Dad. I promise." "I love you, sweetheart." "I love you too." Lena hung up and stood there for a while, phone in hand, trying to feel something other than numb. She'd done it. She'd actually saved the company. 2,000 people would keep their jobs. Families would keep their homes. Children would keep eating. The town would survive. All it cost was 30 days of her life. The door to Nathan's office opened. He emerged carrying a laptop and a coffee cup, looking annoyingly casual. "Your room is down that hall," he said, gesturing. "Second door on the left. Margaret had your things sent over from the motel." Lena frowned. "How did you know which motel?" "I know everything about everyone I do business with. We covered this." Nathan sat down at his desk and opened the laptop. "There's a credit card on the dresser in your room. No limit. Buy whatever you need." "I don't need your money. You're living in a hotel suite for a month. You'll need clothes, toiletries, whatever else people need." He didn't look up from his screen. "Consider it a business expense." "This isn't business?" "Everything's business, Miss Carter." Lena wanted to argue, but she was too tired. Instead, she walked down the hall and found her room. It was bigger than her entire apartment back home. King-sized bed with white linens, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake, a bathroom with a tub deep enough to drown in. Everything was pristine, expensive, impersonal. Her duffel bag sat on the bed, looking pathetic against all that luxury. Lena sat down next to it and tried to remember how to breathe. The next few days passed in a strange, suspended kind of unreality. Nathan left the suite every morning at 7 and didn't return until evening. He never told her where he was going. She never asked. During the day, Lena had the suite to herself, which should have felt like freedom, but mostly just felt like a very expensive cage. She tried to stay busy. She called the factory 3 times a day, checking on equipment repairs, reviewing payroll schedules, talking to workers who wanted to thank her for whatever miracle had happened. She didn't tell them the truth. She just said she'd found an investor who believed in the company. Another lie. Nathan didn't believe in anything. On the third night, Lena was reading on the couch when Nathan came home early. He looked exhausted, tie loosened, jacket over his arm. "You eat yet?" he asked, dropping his briefcase by the door. "I had a sandwich." "That's not dinner." He pulled out his phone. "I'm ordering Italian. You like Italian?" "I'm not hungry." "You're eating anyway." Nathan made the call, ordered enough food for 4 people, then poured himself a scotch. "How was your day?" The question caught her off guard. "What?" "Your day. How was it?" "Why do you care?" "I don't. I'm making conversation." He sat down in the chair across from her. "Isn't that what people do?" Lena stared at him. "People who actually like each other, yeah. We don't have to like each other. We just have to coexist for 30 days. Nathan took a drink. "So, how was your day?" "Fine. I talked to the factory. They're starting repairs next week." "Good. That's it? Good? What else do you want me to say?" "I don't know. Maybe ask about the repairs. Pretend to care about the company you just invested $10 million in?" Nathan smiled without humor. "I didn't invest in the company, Miss Carter. I invested in you." The words hung in the air between them like smoke. "Don't say things like that," Lena said quietly. "Why not? It's true." "Because it makes this worse than it already is." Nathan studied her for a moment, then stood and walked to the window. "You think I'm a monster?" It wasn't a question, but Lena answered anyway. "Yes. Fair enough." He didn't turn around. "But monsters are usually created, not born. You ever think about that? I don't care about your origin story. Everyone has one. Mine's not particularly interesting. Rich father, absent mother, boarding schools, business degree, inherited fortune." He said it like he was reading from a resume. "I learned early that money solves most problems and creates interesting new ones. Is that what I am? An interesting problem?" Nathan turned around. "You're an experiment. I'm a person. People are just data points with emotions." He finished his drink and set the glass down. "I wanted to see if someone like you, someone who talks about integrity and sacrifice, would actually follow through when it counted. And you did. You signed the contract. You took the money. So now I'm waiting to see what happens next." Lena stood up, anger finally cutting through the numbness. "You want to know what happens next? Nothing. I sit in this suite for 30 days. I have awkward dinners with you. I count down the hours until I can go home. And then I forget you ever existed." "You really think it'll be that simple?" "It has to be." "Why?" "Because if it's not simple, then I made a mistake." Lena's voice shook. "And I can't afford to have made a mistake." The doorbell rang. Nathan went to answer it, tipping the delivery person in cash before bringing the food to the dining table. "Eat," he said. Lena wanted to refuse, but she was actually hungry, and the food smelled incredible. She sat down across from him and took a plate of pasta. They ate in silence for a while. Then Nathan said, "Tell me about the factory." "Why?" "Because I'm curious. You sacrificed a month of your life for it. It must be important." Lena put down her fork. "My grandfather started it after the war. He was a machinist, barely had 2 nickels to rub together, but he saw an opportunity. At first it was just him and 5 other guys in a garage making parts for farm equipment. But he was good at it, reliable. Word spread. Within 10 years, he had 50 employees. Within 20, he had 300. "And your father took over?" "When I was 12, Grandpa had a stroke. Dad wasn't ready. He'd been studying engineering, not business, but he figured it out. He cared about the workers, made sure everyone got fair wages, good benefits. When the recession hit in 2008, he took out a second mortgage on our house rather than lay people off." Lena looked down at her plate. "That's who he is. That's who we are. We don't throw people away when things get hard. Admirable, Nathan said. Stupid, but admirable. It's not stupid to care about people. It is if it destroys you. Better than being destroyed because you don't care about anything. Nathan set down his fork. You think I don't care about anything? I think you care about money and power and winning. I think you look at people and see transactions. I think you're so empty inside that you have to buy human connection because you can't build it. Lena met his eyes. Am I wrong? For a long moment, Nathan didn't answer. His expression was unreadable, that careful mask he wore slipping just enough for Lena to see something underneath, something that looked almost like pain. Then it was gone. No, he said quietly. You're not wrong. The honesty surprised her. Lena didn't know what to say. Nathan stood and started clearing plates. I have work to do. You can watch TV, read, whatever. Just be here tomorrow at 7. Where else would I be? He didn't answer. He just disappeared into his office, closing the door behind him. Lena sat alone at the table, surrounded by expensive furniture and uneaten pasta, wondering what kind of person admitted they were empty and then just carried on like it didn't matter. A week passed, then another. The days developed a rhythm. Nathan left early. Lena managed the factory from afar. Evenings, they had dinner together, conversations that circled around everything important without ever landing on it. Nathan asked about her childhood. Lena asked about his business. They talked about movies, books, cities they'd visited, surface things, safe things. Lena started to notice details. The way Nathan's jaw tightened when she mentioned her father. The way he never talked about his own family. The way he worked 16-hour days and slept maybe 4 hours a night. The way he looked at his phone sometimes, like he was waiting for a call that never came. She started to realize that Nathan wasn't just empty. He was lonely, not that it mattered. Lonely monsters were still monsters. On day 14, Lena woke up to find Nathan already in the suite, which was unusual. He was sitting on the couch, still in his pajamas. She'd never seen him in anything casual, staring at his laptop with an expression she couldn't read. What's wrong? She asked. Nathan looked up. Nothing. You're a terrible liar. He closed the laptop. I got a call this morning, my son's school. He's been having behavioral problems. Lena froze. You have a son? I have a son. Nathan ran a hand through his hair. Ethan, he's 7, lives with his mother in New York. You never mentioned him. You never asked. I didn't know I should ask. Lena sat down on the opposite end of the couch. What kind of behavioral problems? Fighting, refusing to do work, talking back to teachers. Nathan's voice was flat. His mother says it's my fault, says I never visit, never call, that he's acting out because he needs his father. Is she right? Probably. Nathan stood and walked to the window. I see him once a month if I'm lucky. We have awkward dinners where he barely speaks to me. I ask about school. He gives one-word answers. I try to connect with him and fail every time. And then I leave and go back to work because work is something I understand. Lena watched him, this powerful man who suddenly looked very small. Why are you telling me this? I don't know. Nathan's reflection in the window looked lost. Maybe because you're here and I can't tell anyone else. Maybe because you already think I'm a monster, so what's one more failure? Neglecting your son isn't the same as being a monster. It just makes you a bad father. Thanks, that's very comforting. I'm not here to comfort you. But even as she said it, Lena felt something shift. This wasn't the calculated billionaire who'd bought her time. This was just a guy who didn't know how to love his kid. Nathan turned around. You think I'm terrible. Yeah, but not because of your son, because of what you did to me. Lena leaned back. But maybe you're terrible for different reasons than I thought. What's that supposed to mean? It means you're not evil. You're just broken. And you've convinced yourself that being broken is the same as being strong. Nathan stared at her. You majored in psychology? I majored in mechanical engineering, but I grew up watching my dad run a company by actually caring about people. You learn things. Lena stood up. Call your son. What? Right now, call him. Talk to him. It's 7 in the morning. He's getting ready for school. So call him before school. Ask him about his day. Tell him you're thinking about him. Lena pulled out her phone. What's his number? This is ridiculous. You hired me to have dinner with you for 30 days. You don't get to call me ridiculous. Lena held out her phone. Call your son. Nathan looked at the phone like it might bite him. Then, slowly, he pulled out his own phone and dialed. It rang 4 times. Then a woman's voice, sharp and annoyed. Nathan? It's 7 a.m. I know, Sarah. I wanted to talk to Ethan. He's eating breakfast. It'll just take a minute. Lena heard Sarah sigh. Then footsteps. Then a small voice. Hello? Nathan's entire posture changed. His shoulders softened. His voice got quieter. Hey, buddy, it's Dad. I know. The kid sounded about as enthusiastic as a dentist appointment. How's school? Fine. Your mom said you've been having some trouble. Silence. Ethan, you still there? Yeah. You want to talk about it? Not really. Nathan looked at Lena helplessly. She mouthed the words, ask him something specific. What are you having for breakfast? Nathan asked. Cereal. What kind? The one with the marshmallows. Lucky Charms. Yeah. That was my favorite when I was your age. Nathan sat down on the couch. You know what I used to do? I'd pick out all the marshmallows first and save them for the end. A pause, then, that's what I do. Lena saw something flicker across Nathan's face. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. Really? Nathan said. Yeah, Mom says it's weird. It's not weird, it's strategic. Nathan actually smiled. You're saving the best for last. That's smart. That's what I said. They talked for 5 more minutes, about cereal and school and a video game Ethan was playing. The conversation was stilted, awkward, but it was real. And when they hung up, Nathan looked at the phone like he didn't quite believe what had just happened. He talked to me, Nathan said quietly. Yeah. Kids do that when you ask them actual questions. I don't know how to do this. Nobody does. Lena sat down next to him. You just keep trying. You mess up. You try again. That's what being a parent is. Nathan looked at her. How do you know? You don't have kids. No, but I had a dad who showed up. Even when he was tired, even when work was overwhelming, he showed up. Lena's voice softened. That's all your son needs. Just show up. For a moment, something passed between them. Not attraction, nothing like that, but recognition. Like they were both seeing each other as actual people for the first time. Then Nathan stood up. I have a meeting. I'll be back for dinner. Okay. He grabbed his laptop and headed for the door. Then he stopped. Thank you. Lena didn't know what to say, so she just nodded. After he left, she sat on the couch for a long time, thinking about the man who'd bought her time and the boy who just wanted his father to care. That evening, Nathan came home with takeout and a chess set. You play? He asked, setting up the board on the coffee table. My grandfather taught me. Good. I need an opponent who won't let me win. They played 3 games. Nathan won the first 2. Lena won the third by sacrificing her queen in a move that made Nathan actually laugh. That was reckless, he said. That was strategic. I knew you'd take the queen. You can't resist big moves. And that tells you what about me? That you think in terms of power, not positioning. Lena reset the board. You'd rather have 1 strong piece than 3 weak ones working together. Is that a criticism? It's an observation. Nathan leaned back, studying her. You're smarter than I gave you credit for. Most people are. You just don't notice because you're too busy calculating their value. Fair point. He poured them both wine. Tell me something. Do you hate me less now than you did 2 weeks ago? Lena considered the question. I don't know. Maybe. You're more complicated than I thought. Complicated. That's diplomatic. You want honesty? Fine. I think you're damaged. I think you use money to avoid actual connection. I think you're terrified of being vulnerable. And I think somewhere underneath all that, there's a person who wants to be better but doesn't know how. Nathan didn't respond for a long time. When he did, his voice was very quiet. And what if that person doesn't exist? Then you're stuck being exactly who you are right now, forever. Lena met his eyes. Is that what you want? I don't know what I want. Then maybe you should figure it out. They didn't play another game. They just sat there, drinking wine, watching the city lights flicker below, Two people trapped in a transaction, neither of them knew how to escape. On day 20, everything changed. Lena was cooking dinner. She'd gotten tired of takeout and convinced Nathan to let her use the kitchen when her phone rang. The factory. Hello? Lena, it's Tom. The plant manager sounded panicked. Your dad collapsed. We called an ambulance. They're taking him to County General. The phone slipped from her hand. Nathan was there immediately, catching it before it hit the floor. What happened? My dad. Lena's voice didn't sound like her own. He collapsed. I need to go home. We'll go right now. Nathan was already grabbing his keys. I'll have my plane ready in 30 minutes. You have a plane? Yes. Come on. They were in the air 40 minutes later, Nathan's private jet screaming through the night sky toward her small town. Lena sat by the window, watching clouds blur past, trying not to think about what she'd find when they landed. Nathan sat across from her, making calls, coordinating with the hospital, arranging transportation, being efficient because efficiency was what he knew. He's stable, Nathan said, hanging up. They're running tests, but he's conscious, asking for you. Lena nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Hey, Nathan leaned forward. He's going to be okay. You don't know that. No, but panicking won't help him. I'm not panicking. Your hands are shaking. Lena looked down. He was right. She clenched her fists. I should have been there. I should have been home. You were saving his company. I was sitting in a hotel room playing chess with you, while my father— Stop. Nathan's voice was firm. You did what he asked you to do. You made the hard choice. You can't control what happens after that. Says the man who controls everything. I control money. I control businesses. I can't control whether people live or die. Nathan's expression shifted. Trust me. I've tried. There was something in his voice, something old and hurt, that made Lena look at him differently. Who did you lose? She asked quietly. Nathan didn't answer for a long time. Then, my mother. When I was 16. Cancer. My father spent millions trying to save her. Best doctors, experimental treatments, everything. It didn't matter. She died anyway. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was a long time ago. But the way he said it told Lena it wasn't long ago at all. Not really. They landed an hour later. A car was waiting. Nathan drove, fast and focused, navigating unfamiliar roads like he'd memorized them. How do you know where you're going? Lena asked. GPS. You're not looking at your phone. I looked before we landed. Nathan took a sharp turn. Hospital's 3 miles straight, then left on Oakwood. Despite everything, Lena almost smiled. Of course he'd memorized the route. They reached the hospital just after midnight. Lena ran inside, Nathan following behind her. Her father was in ICU, hooked up to machines, looking small and gray against the white sheets. But he was awake. And when he saw Lena, he smiled. Hey, sweetheart. Dad. Lena grabbed his hand. What happened? Just a scare. Doctors say my heart's acting up again. They're keeping me overnight for observation. He looked past her at Nathan. Who's this? Nathan Cole, the investor I told you about. Robert Carter's eyes narrowed. You came all the way here? Lena needed to see you, Nathan said simply. Thank you. Her father looked between them, clearly trying to figure something out. Lena, can you give us a minute? Dad, you need to rest. 1 minute. Lena looked at Nathan, who nodded. She stepped into the hallway, leaving them alone. Through the window, she watched her father talking to Nathan, saw Nathan's posture stiffen, saw her father's expression shift from suspicion to something else, understanding, maybe, or anger. Then Nathan stood and walked out. What did he say to you? Lena asked. Your father's perceptive. Nathan's face was unreadable. He asked what I really want from you. I told him the truth, which is that I don't know anymore. Nathan started walking toward the exit. I'm getting a hotel room. You should stay with your father. Nathan, wait! But he was already gone. Lena went back into her father's room. What did you say to him? I asked him what this investment cost you. Her father's voice was weak but clear, and he didn't lie. I respect that at least. Dad, you sold him a month of your time. It wasn't a question. Lena sat down slowly. Yes. And what else? Nothing else. Just time. Dinner. Conversation. Her father studied her face. You're telling me the truth? I'm telling you the truth. He closed his eyes. I never should have asked you to do whatever it takes. You didn't think I'd actually do it. Lena squeezed his hand. But I did. And it's okay. He's not what I thought he was. What is he? Lena thought about Nathan on the plane, talking about his mother. Nathan playing chess and actually laughing. Nathan calling his son and trying to figure out how to be a father. Lonely, she said finally. He's just lonely. Her father opened his eyes. That makes him more dangerous, not less. Why? Because lonely people get attached, and attachment complicates everything. Lena wanted to argue, but she couldn't, because her father was right. Somewhere in the last 20 days, this had stopped being a transaction. She didn't know when it happened. Maybe during chess games, maybe during late-night conversations, maybe when Nathan called his son and she saw him vulnerable for the first time. But it had happened, and she had no idea what to do about it. She stayed with her father until dawn, then went to find Nathan. He was in a diner across the street, drinking coffee and staring at nothing. He's stable, Lena said, sliding into the booth across from him. They're releasing him this afternoon. Good. Thank you for bringing me here. You don't need to thank me. I do, though. You didn't have to do this. Nathan looked at her. You're right. I didn't have to. I wanted to. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning neither of them wanted to examine. The deal, Lena said. We still have 10 days left. I know. What happens after that? Nathan's jaw tightened. You go home. I go back to Chicago. We never see each other again. That was the arrangement. Right. The arrangement. Lena wrapped her hands around a coffee cup she hadn't ordered. And if one of us wants something different, then that person needs to remember why we made the deal in the first place. Nathan stood up, dropping cash on the table. I'm going back to Chicago. Stay here. Be with your father. I'll see you when you're ready to come back. And if I don't come back? Nathan stopped. For a moment, Lena thought he might say something real, something honest. Instead, he just walked out of the diner without looking back. Lena sat alone in the booth, watching the sun rise over the small town she'd sold 30 days of her life to save, and wondered if maybe her father was right. Maybe Nathan wasn't dangerous because he was cruel. Maybe he was dangerous because somewhere in the last 20 days she'd stopped hating him. And that changed everything. Lena stayed in her hometown for 3 days. 3 days of sitting by her father's bedside, reassuring workers at the factory, walking streets she'd known her entire life while trying not to think about the man who'd flown back to Chicago alone. On the morning of the 4th day, her father looked at her from his hospital bed and said, You need to go back. I'm not leaving you. I'm fine. The doctors said so. I'm going home tomorrow. Robert Carter adjusted his pillow with shaky hands. But you've got 6 days left on your deal. 7, actually. 7 then. Her father's eyes were sharp despite his exhaustion. You planning to break your contract? I don't know what I'm planning. Lena. He waited until she met his gaze. I've been thinking about this Nathan Cole, about what kind of man makes that deal, and what kind of man gets on a plane in the middle of the night because you needed him to. He didn't do it for me. He did it because why? Because the contract said so? Because he's protecting his investment? Her father shook his head. Men like that don't do anything unless it serves them. So the question is, what does helping you serve? Lena didn't have an answer. Go back, her father said. Finish the deal. And figure out what's really happening between you two before it's too late. Too late for what? For both of you to pretend this is still just business. Lena flew back to Chicago that afternoon, taking a commercial flight because Nathan had left the jet for her, but she'd refused it out of principle she didn't fully understand. The whole way back, she stared out the window at clouds and tried to prepare herself for whatever came next. The suite was empty when she arrived. No Nathan, no note, just silence and city lights. She found him 3 hours later on the rooftop terrace she hadn't known existed. He was sitting on a bench, jacket off, tie loosened, staring at the skyline with a glass of something amber in his hand. Your father okay? He asked without turning around. He's fine. Going home tomorrow. Good. Lena sat down next to him, leaving a careful distance between them. You left without saying goodbye. Didn't seem necessary. We have 7 days left. I know how to count, Miss Carter. Stop calling me that. Nathan looked at her then, and Lena saw something in his face she hadn't seen before. Exhaustion, maybe. Or defeat. What should I call you? He asked quietly. Lena. Just Lena. Just Lena. Nathan took a drink. Your father asked me what I really wanted from you. I know. What did you tell him? The truth. That I started this as an experiment. That I wanted to see if your principles were real or just performance. That I wanted to prove everyone has a price. He set down his glass. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being about that. Lena's heart was beating too fast. What's it about now? I don't know. That's the problem. Nathan stood up and walked to the edge of the terrace, gripping the railing. I'm good at transactions. I understand contracts and terms and clear outcomes, but this, whatever this is, I don't understand it, and I don't know what to do with things I don't understand. So you ran away. I gave you space? Same thing. Nathan turned around. What do you want from me, Lena? The question hung in the air between them, dangerous and necessary. I don't know, Lena said honestly. A month ago, I wanted to forget you existed. 2 weeks ago, I wanted to survive this and go home. Now? She stood up, walked closer. Now I want you to be honest. About what this is. About what you're feeling. I don't do feelings. Bullshit. Everyone does feelings. You just pretend you don't because it's safer. Safer than what? Safer than admitting you're human. Lena stopped a few feet from him. Safer than admitting you're lonely. Safer than admitting that maybe, just maybe, you want something more than money and power and proving everyone's as empty as you think you are. Nathan's jaw tightened. You don't know what I want. Then tell me. For a long moment, Nathan just looked at her. Then he said, very quietly, I want to be different than I am. I want to be the kind of person who knows how to love his son, who knows how to connect with people without buying them, who doesn't wake up every morning in a suite worth more than most people make in a lifetime and feel absolutely nothing. The confession hung between them, raw and real. So be different, Lena said. It's not that simple. It is actually. You just decide to be different and then you do the work. Lena moved closer. You think I wasn't terrified when I signed that contract? You think I didn't hate myself for it? But I did it anyway because the alternative was worse. So if you want to change, change. Stop waiting for permission. And if I fail? Then you fail. And you try again. Lena was close enough now to see the flecks of gold in Nathan's eyes, close enough to smell his cologne mixed with whiskey. That's what being human is, trying and failing and trying again. Nathan reached out slowly, like he was testing whether she'd pull away, and touched her face. Just a brush of fingers against her cheek, tentative and careful. I'm not good at this, he said. I know. I'm probably going to hurt you. Probably. So why are you still here? Lena caught his hand, held it against her face. Because I think underneath all the damage and cynicism and defense mechanisms, there's someone worth knowing, and I think you know it too. You're just scared. I'm not scared. Everyone's scared of something. Lena let go of his hand. The question is whether you're brave enough to try anyway. Nathan stepped back, and for a second Lena thought she'd pushed too hard. Then he said, I need to show you something. He led her back down to the suite, into his office, and opened his laptop. On the screen was a document, legal papers, dense with text. I had my lawyers draw this up yesterday, Nathan said. It dissolves our contract. You're free to go, right now, tonight, whenever you want. The money stays with your company regardless. No strings, no obligations. Lena stared at the document. Why? Because your father was right. This stopped being a transaction. And I don't want you here because of a contract. I want you here because you choose to be. Nathan looked at her. So choose. And if I choose to leave, then you leave, and I figure out how to be a better person on my own. And if I stay, Nathan's expression shifted into something vulnerable, something almost hopeful. Then we figure it out together. No contract, no obligations, just two people trying to be better than they were yesterday. Lena looked at the document, then at Nathan, then back at the document. A month ago, this would have been everything she wanted. Freedom, release. The ability to go home and forget any of this happened. But now? Now she wasn't sure she wanted to forget. I need time to think, she said. Nathan nodded. Take all the time you need. That night, Lena lay in her room staring at the ceiling, turning the question over and over in her mind. Stay or go. Choose the man who'd bought her time or choose her principles. Choose the possibility of something real or choose the safety of familiar ground. She thought about her father, dying slowly in a town that needed him. She thought about the factory workers, their lives saved by blood money. She thought about Nathan calling his son, trying so hard to connect. She thought about the look on his face when he touched her cheek, like he was surprised his own hand knew how to be gentle. At 2 a.m., she got up and walked to Nathan's office. He was still there, still awake, surrounded by paperwork and the blue glow of computer screens. Can't sleep? He asked. Can you? Haven't been sleeping well for years. Nathan leaned back in his chair. Insomnia is more honest than dreams. Lena sat down across from him. I'm staying. Something flickered across Nathan's face. Relief, maybe, or fear. You're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Lena picked up a pen from his desk. On one condition. Name it. No more games, no more tests, no more trying to prove I have a price or that my principles are performance. She met his eyes. You want me here? Then treat me like a person, not an experiment. Deal. Nathan held out his hand. Lena shook it, and the formality of the gesture almost made her laugh. Here they were, sealing an agreement to be honest with each other like it was a business transaction. Maybe that was the only language Nathan knew, but he was trying, and that had to count for something. The next morning, Nathan did something he never did. He stayed home from work. I'm taking the day off, he announced over coffee. Lena looked up from her phone. You're what? Taking the day off, I called my assistant, canceled all my meetings. He poured himself a second cup. I thought we could do something. Like what? I don't know. What do normal people do on days off? Lena almost smiled. Normal people sleep in, watch bad TV, go for walks, get lunch somewhere that doesn't have a Michelin star. Sounds terrible. It's actually pretty great. So that's what they did. They slept until 9, which for Nathan might as well have been noon. They watched a movie, something mindless with explosions and terrible dialogue that made them both laugh. They walked along the lake, not talking much, just existing in the same space without agenda or contract or obligation. At lunch, they ended up in a diner that reminded Lena of home. Cracked vinyl booths and linoleum floors, and a waitress who called everyone honey. Nathan looked completely out of place in his expensive casual wear, but he ordered a burger and fries without complaint. This is weird, he said. What is? This. Doing nothing. Being nowhere. He picked up a fry, examined it like it was a specimen. I'm always working, always moving toward the next deal, the next acquisition. I don't know how to just be. Most people don't, not really. Lena took a bite of her sandwich. We're all running from something. You just run faster than most. What are you running from? The question caught her off guard. I don't know. Failure, maybe. Letting people down. Becoming someone my grandfather wouldn't recognize. Think he'd recognize you now? Lena thought about it. I think he'd be disappointed I sold myself to save the company, but I think he'd understand why I did it. That's the difference between you and me, Nathan said. You care what your family thinks. I stopped caring about that a long time ago. When? When my mother died and my father didn't even take a day off work. He was at a board meeting when she took her last breath. Closed a merger 3 days after her funeral. Nathan's voice was flat, emotionless. That's when I learned that caring is just another weakness people exploit. Or maybe that's when you learned your father was broken, and instead of learning from his mistakes, you just became him. Nathan set down his burger. You really don't pull punches, do you? You said you wanted honesty. I did. Doesn't mean I enjoy it. He took a drink. So what do I do? How do I stop being him? Start by actually taking this day off. Stop checking your phone every 5 minutes. Nathan looked guilty. I'm not. You've checked it 6 times since we sat down. He put the phone in his pocket. Better? It's a start. They spent the afternoon walking through neighborhoods Nathan had never seen despite living in Chicago for years. Ethnic groceries and used bookstores and parks where kids played soccer. Normal life, happening all around them, completely indifferent to wealth or status. I forgot this existed, Nathan said, watching a street musician play guitar for spare change. What? This. People just living, not trying to impress anyone, not chasing anything. He dropped a 20 in the musician's case. Just being human. They got home after dark, both exhausted in a way that felt good, real. Nathan ordered pizza, not from some fancy Italian place, just regular pizza from a chain, and they ate it on the couch while watching the news. Thank you, Nathan said suddenly. For what? For staying, for giving me a chance to figure this out. He set down his pizza. I know I don't deserve it. Probably not, but people rarely get what they deserve. They get what they choose to pursue. Lena turned to face him. So what are you going to pursue? Nathan looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, I'm going to visit my son. This weekend. Not for a duty dinner. For real. I'm going to spend actual time with him. That's good. And I'm going to call my lawyers about restructuring the company. I want to start a foundation. Use some of this money for something other than making more money. Also good. And I'm going to figure out what the hell I'm doing with you. Lena's heart skipped. What does that mean? It means I don't have a plan. I don't have a contract or terms or a clear outcome. I just know that when you're here, things make sense in a way they haven't in years. And when you're gone, everything's empty again. Nathan moved closer. So I'm going to figure out how to be the kind of person who deserves to keep you around. Nathan, I'm not asking for anything. I'm just telling you what I'm going to do. He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. You can decide later if it's enough. Lena caught his hand, held it. What if I told you it already is? Then I'd say you have terrible judgment. But Nathan smiled when he said it, and it was real, not the calculated smile he used in business. But I'd take it anyway. They sat there on the couch, hand in hand, watching the city lights flicker through the windows. And for the first time since this whole thing started, Lena felt like maybe this could actually become something real. The next day, Nathan went to New York to see his son. Lena stayed in Chicago, and to her surprise, she didn't feel trapped. She walked the city, explored museums, called her father, and told him about Nathan's foundation idea. Robert Carter listened quietly, then said, He's changing. Yeah. Because of you. I don't know about that. I do. People don't change unless someone gives them a reason. Her father paused. Just be careful, sweetheart. Change people can change back. I know. But when Nathan returned 2 days later, he looked different, lighter somehow. How'd it go? Lena asked. Good. Really good. Nathan dropped his bag by the door. We went to a park, played basketball. I'm terrible at basketball, by the way. He laughed at me. A lot. Then we got ice cream and just talked about school, about his friends, about everything. He sat down, still smiling. He asked when I'm coming back, not because he has to ask, because he wants me to. That's amazing. He also asked about you. Lena's eyebrows went up. Me? I mentioned you, told him you were helping me figure some stuff out. Nathan looked almost shy. He wants to meet you. Nathan, not now, not yet. But someday, if you want. The implications of that simple statement hung heavy. Meeting his son meant something. It meant this wasn't just temporary. It meant Nathan was thinking about a future that included her. One step at a time, Lena said carefully. Right, one step at a time. They spent the next few days falling into a new rhythm. Nathan still worked, but reasonable hours. He came home for dinner. They talked, really talked, about everything and nothing. He taught her about the business world. She taught him about factory operations. They played chess and watched movies, and slowly, carefully, learned how to be two people sharing space instead of two people trapped by a contract. On day 28, 2 days before the original contract would have ended, Nathan's lawyer called. Lena was in the kitchen making coffee when she heard Nathan's voice rising in his office. What do you mean there's a problem? She couldn't hear the response, but Nathan's face when he emerged told her everything. What happened? Lena asked. Marcus Webb. Nathan's jaw was tight. The guy who embezzled from your company. What about him? He's back. And he's filed a lawsuit claiming he still owns 20% of Carter Manufacturing. Says the embezzlement charges were fabricated. Lena felt the floor drop out from under her. That's insane. We have proof. Bank records, everything. He has lawyers. Good ones. And apparently he's been building a case for months. Nathan grabbed his laptop. He's claiming the factory is worth $50 million now, thanks to my investment, and he wants his 20%. That's $10 million. The exact amount you invested. Yeah, convenient, isn't it? Nathan was already typing, pulling up documents. He's trying to force a sale. Says if the company can't pay him his share, they have to liquidate. This will destroy us. Even with your investment, we can't fight a lawsuit and keep operating. Lena sank into a chair. He waited. He waited until we had something worth taking, then came back. Nathan was quiet for a moment, reading through files. Then he said, "Not if I buy the company first." What?
Aye.
If I acquire Carter Manufacturing outright, Webb's claim becomes worthless. He can't sue for ownership of something I own. Nathan looked up. I'll pay fair market value. Your father keeps his position, keeps running operations. Nothing changes except the name on the paperwork. Lena stared at him. You want to buy my family's company. I want to protect it. By owning it. By making sure Webb can't take it. Nathan closed his laptop. Look, I know how this sounds, but it's the only way to shut him down fast enough to matter. And after? After Webb is gone? After, we figure it out. Maybe I sell it back to your father for $1. Maybe we restructure it as a trust. I don't know, but right now, we need to move fast. Lena stood up and walked to the window. Below, Chicago hummed with life. People going to work, living their lives, unaware that somewhere above them, someone's entire world was falling apart again. This is what you do, isn't it? She said quietly. You see opportunities in other people's disasters. That's not what this is. Isn't it? Marcus creates a crisis, and suddenly you get to own the thing I sold myself to save. Lena, don't. She turned around. Don't tell me it's different now. Don't tell me you've changed, because this is exactly who you were a month ago. You see something you want, and you take it. I'm trying to help you. By taking control? By making sure I'm dependent on you forever? Lena felt tears building. You said you wanted to be different. You said you wanted to change. But the first real test, and you revert right back to the billionaire who thinks money solves everything. What do you want me to do? Nathan's voice rose. Let Webb destroy everything? Let 2,000 people lose their jobs because I didn't act? I want you to ask me first. I want you to treat me like a partner, not a problem to solve. Lena grabbed her jacket. I want you to be the person you were yesterday instead of the person you were a month ago. Where are you going? I don't know. Anywhere but here. Nathan moved between her and the door. We need to deal with this. We need to make a decision. No, you need to make a decision. That's always been the problem. You make decisions and everyone else lives with the consequences. Lena pushed past him. I need air. I need to think. She left the suite, took the elevator down 43 floors, and walked out into the Chicago night. The streets were cold and wet from rain she hadn't noticed falling. Lena walked without direction. Just walked, trying to process what had just happened. Part of her knew Nathan was right. They needed to act fast. Webb was a snake, and he'd strike the moment he sensed weakness. But another part, the part that had spent a month watching Nathan slowly become human, felt betrayed. Because buying the company wasn't about protection, it was about control. And control was what Nathan did when he was scared. She found herself at the lake, staring at dark water and darker sky. Her phone buzzed. Nathan, please come back. We need to talk. She typed, I need time. Nathan, we don't have time. Lena, then make a decision without me. That's what you're good at. She turned off her phone and sat on a bench, watching waves crash against the shore. Hours passed. The rain stopped. The sky started to lighten with pre-dawn gray. When Lena finally turned her phone back on, she had 17 missed calls from Nathan and 1 voicemail. She played it. Lena, Nathan's voice was rough, exhausted. I called my lawyers, told them we're not buying the company. We're going to fight Webb in court. It'll be expensive and it'll be messy and we might lose. But you're right. I can't fix this by taking control. I can't be the person I want to be if I keep doing things the way I always did. A pause. I'm going to your town tomorrow. I'm going to meet your father and the board, and we're going to figure this out together, as partners, because that's what you asked for, and I'm trying to give you what you ask for, instead of what I think you need. Another pause. Come home when you're ready. I'll be here. Lena played the message 3 times. Then she got up and headed back to the suite. Nathan was on the terrace where she'd first found him. Same spot, same posture. But when he turned around and saw her, the relief on his face was so raw it hurt to look at. I'm sorry, he said immediately. I'm sorry I tried to fix it the only way I know how. I'm sorry I didn't ask you first. I'm sorry To stop. Lena walked closer. You don't have to apologize for wanting to help. You just have to learn to help differently. I left my lawyers a message. We're fighting web, together. I heard your voicemail. All of it? All of it? Nathan reached for her hand, tentative. I meant what I said. I'm going to your town. I'm going to meet your father and figure out how to handle this the right way. Not the easy way. The right way. Lena let him take her hand. And what's the right way? I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out. He pulled her closer. That's what partners do, right? Yeah, that's what partners do. They stood on the terrace as the sun came up. 2 people who'd started as a transaction and somehow become something real, facing down a threat neither of them had expected. And for the first time, Nathan wasn't facing it alone. For the first time, he had someone standing beside him who wanted to be there. Not because of a contract, not because of money, just because. They flew out the next morning, Nathan's jet cutting through clear sky toward the small town Lena had been trying to save since this whole thing began. She watched him during the flight, the way his leg bounced with nervous energy, the way he kept reviewing documents on his laptop, then closing it without reading anything. You're anxious, she said. I'm not anxious. Your leg's been bouncing for 20 minutes. Nathan stopped the movement consciously. I'm meeting your father. Officially. Not as the guy who wrote a check, but as someone who's actually involved in your life. You've met him before. That was different. I was a stranger helping in an emergency. Now I'm... He stopped. You're what? Nathan looked at her. I don't know what I am. That's the problem. Lena reached across the aisle and took his hand. You're someone trying to help. That's enough for now. What if he hates me? He probably will a little bit. You did offer to buy me for a month. That's not helping. I'm not here to make you feel better. I'm here to make sure you don't chicken out. Lena squeezed his hand. Besides, my dad's a good judge of character. If you're being real, he'll see it. And if I'm not, then you'll get thrown out of his hospital room and we'll have bigger problems. Nathan almost smiled. Almost. They landed 2 hours later at a small regional airport where Lena's truck was still parked from her last visit. Nathan looked at the beat-up Ford with something like concern. Does it run? Has for 15 years? That's not reassuring. They drove through town, past the factory where the second shift was just starting, past the diner where Lena had eaten breakfast every Sunday with her grandfather, past the elementary school where she'd learned to read. Nathan took it all in silently, and Lena wondered what he saw. Probably poverty, probably decay, probably everything he'd spent his life trying to escape. It's not much, she said. It's home. For me, not for you. Nathan looked at her. Maybe that's about to change. They found Robert Carter in his office at the factory, reviewing blueprints with the chief engineer. He looked better than he had in the hospital, less gray, more solid, but Lena could still see the exhaustion around his eyes. Dad, you're supposed to be resting. I'm sitting down. That's resting. Robert stood anyway, extending his hand to Nathan. Mr. Cole, Nathan, please. They shook, and Lena watched her father's eyes assess Nathan the way he assessed new machinery, looking for weak points, checking structural integrity. Nathan, my daughter says you have news about Marcus Webb. He's filed a lawsuit claiming partial ownership. It's frivolous but expensive to fight. Nathan pulled out his laptop. I've had my legal team review the original partnership agreement. There are clauses we can use to challenge his claim, but it'll take time. How much time? 6 months? Maybe 8 if it goes to trial. Robert sat down heavily. We can't survive 8 months of legal fees. That's why I'm covering them. All of them. This doesn't cost you anything. Lena's father looked at her, then at Nathan. Why would you do that? Nathan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, because Lena asked me to help differently than I usually help. Because I'm trying to be someone who solves problems without taking control. Because he stopped, recalibrated. Because I care about what happens to this company and to your daughter. The silence that followed was heavy enough to sink ships. Robert Carter leaned back in his chair, studying Nathan with eyes that had seen 40 years of people making promises they didn't keep. You care about my daughter? Yes, sir. In what capacity? Dad, Lena said, it's a fair question. Robert didn't take his eyes off Nathan. A month ago, you made her a deal that no decent man would make. Now you're here offering to pay legal fees and talking about caring. So I'm asking, in what capacity do you care about my daughter? Nathan met his gaze without flinching. In every capacity that she'll allow. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. I don't know what this is yet. I just know I'm willing to figure it out. Nathan's voice was steady. I know I started this badly. I know what I offered her was wrong, but I'm trying to be better. And she makes me want to be better. Robert looked at Lena. You believe him? I'm starting to. Starting to isn't the same as trusting him. No, but it's a beginning. Her father sighed, the kind of sigh that carried decades of hard decisions. All right, you can cover the legal fees, but on one condition. Name it, Nathan said. You move here, to this town, for however long this lawsuit takes. Robert stood up. You want to help? You want to prove you're different? Then don't do it from a penthouse in Chicago. Do it from here. Live with these people. See what you're actually fighting for. Lena's eyes widened. Dad, you can't. I can and I am. Robert looked at Nathan. What do you say? You willing to trade that fancy suite for a real life? Nathan didn't hesitate. Yes. Just like that? Just like that. Nathan closed his laptop. I'll have my assistant arrange everything. Where should I stay? There's an apartment above the hardware store. Nothing fancy, but it's furnished. Robert handed him a key he pulled from his desk drawer like he'd been planning this all along. Rent's $800 a month. You pay on the first like everyone else. Nathan took the key. I'll move in tomorrow. After they left the factory, Lena drove Nathan to the apartment. It was exactly what her father had described. Nothing fancy. 1 bedroom, small kitchen, bathroom that had seen better decades. The furniture looked like it came from 3 different estate sales. Nathan stood in the middle of the living room, taking it all in. This is smaller than my closet in Chicago, he said. You don't have to do this. You can commute, stay in a hotel. No. Nathan set down his bag. Your father's right. If I'm going to help, I need to be here, really here. You're sure about this? Nathan looked at her. Lena, a month ago I would have called this insane. Now, this feels like the first sane thing I've done in years. He moved in the next day, which mostly meant watching his assistant coordinate deliveries while Nathan tried to figure out how a coffee maker worked without staff to operate it. You press that button, Lena said from the doorway. I pressed it. Nothing happened. You have to add water first. Nathan looked at the machine like it had personally betrayed him. Why doesn't it come with water? Because you're supposed to provide the water. It's a coffee maker, not a miracle worker. In my suite, someone brings me coffee. In your suite, someone does everything. Here, you're just another person. Lena filled the reservoir, pressed the button. The machine gurgled to life. See? Magic. Nathan watched coffee drip into the pot with something like wonder. I've never made my own coffee before. I know, it's kind of sad. It's pathetic. That too. The coffee finished brewing. Nathan poured 2 cups, handed one to Lena. It was terrible, too weak, slightly bitter, but he drank it anyway. This is awful, he said. Welcome to real life. That first week, Nathan tried to maintain his normal schedule. Up at 5, conference calls with Chicago, emails until midnight. But the town had other plans. On Tuesday, the apartment below him flooded. Nathan spent 3 hours helping the elderly couple who lived there move furniture and mop water, getting soaked and exhausted and weirdly satisfied. On Wednesday, he ran into Maria Gonzalez from the factory at the grocery store. She recognized him, thanked him for the investment, then spent 20 minutes explaining the difference between good tomatoes and bad tomatoes, while Nathan stood there with his expensive coat and no idea what to say. On Thursday, the factory's main computer system crashed. Nathan ended up in the IT room with Tommy Chen, the 22-year-old who'd just gotten married, rebuilding databases until 2 a.m. while Tommy talked about his wife's pregnancy and how scared he was about becoming a father. "You have a kid, right?" Tommy asked, fingers flying over the keyboard. "A son, Ethan. He's 7. You scared when he was born?" Nathan thought about it. "Terrified. Still am most days." "That ever go away?" "I don't think so. I think you just get better at hiding it." Tommy laughed. "Great. That's real encouraging." "You want encouragement? Talk to someone who's good at this. I'm just figuring it out as I go." "Yeah, but you're still here, still trying. That counts for something." Nathan looked at this kid, barely out of college, about to be a father, working overnight to fix computers in a factory that had almost died, and felt something shift in his chest. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I guess it does." By Friday, Nathan looked exhausted. Lena found him in his apartment, surrounded by legal documents and empty coffee cups, eyes red from lack of sleep. "You need to rest," she said. "I need to finish this brief." "Your lawyers can finish it. They're in Chicago. They don't understand what's at stake here." Nathan gestured at the window. "These people. I've met them now. I know their names. I know Tommy's about to be a father, and Maria's saving for her granddaughter's quinceañera, and Frank still comes to work even though his arthritis is so bad he can barely hold tools. I can't let Webb take this from them." Lena sat down next to him. "You're starting to care." "I'm starting to understand the difference between caring and pretending to care." Nathan rubbed his eyes. "All my life I've written checks and called it charity. But that's not caring. That's just moving money around. This, being here, knowing these people, this is what caring actually means." "And how does it feel?" "Exhausting, terrifying, like everything I thought I knew was wrong." He looked at her, "But also right. For the first time in my life, something feels right." Lena reached for his hand. "You're changing." "I'm trying to." "No, you are. I can see it." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "The man I met a month ago wouldn't be here. He wouldn't care about Tommy or Maria or any of this. He'd have sent lawyers and money and called it solved. That man was easier to be. Easier isn't better." "No, but it's simpler." They sat there for a while, just breathing, just being. Then Nathan said, "I called Ethan yesterday, told him I was living in a small town helping people." "What'd he say?" "He asked if I was becoming a superhero." Nathan smiled. "I told him no, just trying to be a better person. He said that's kind of the same thing." "Smart kid." "Yeah, smarter than his father." Lena lifted her head. "You're selling yourself short. You're here. You're trying. That's more than most people do. Is it enough?" "I don't know yet. Ask me in 6 months when this is over." "What if it's not over in 6 months? What if Webb drags this out for years?" "Then you keep being here. Keep trying. Keep showing up." Lena squeezed his hand. "That's all anyone can do." The weeks passed, and Nathan settled into a rhythm he'd never experienced. Real work, not just conference calls and deals. He spent mornings at the factory, learning how things actually worked. Afternoons in strategy meetings with Lena and her father, building their legal case. Evenings helping wherever he was needed, fixing Maria's car when it broke down, teaching Tommy basic financial planning, playing chess with Frank in the break room. He started eating at the diner where everyone knew everyone's business, started waving at people on the street, started feeling like maybe he belonged somewhere that wasn't a balance sheet. And through it all, Lena watched him transform. It wasn't dramatic, wasn't sudden, just small changes that accumulated into someone different. He stopped checking his phone during conversations, started asking people about their lives and actually listening to the answers, learned the names of the third shift workers and the kids who played basketball in the park. One night, 2 months in, Nathan showed up at Lena's house with groceries. "I'm making dinner," he announced. "You don't cook." "I'm learning. Tommy's wife gave me a recipe for chicken parmesan. She says it's foolproof." It wasn't foolproof. Nathan burned the chicken, oversalted the sauce, and somehow managed to catch a dish towel on fire. But he laughed about it, ordered pizza, and they ate on Lena's back porch while the sun set over fields that stretched to the horizon. "I like it here," Nathan said suddenly. "Yeah? Yeah, it's quiet, peaceful. People aren't trying to take things from each other. They're just living." "It's not always peaceful. You've just been here during a good stretch." "Even so," Nathan set down his pizza. "I've been thinking about something." "What's that?" "After this is over, after we beat Webb and the company's safe, I might stay." Lena turned to look at him. "Stay here? Not forever, but longer. I could run my business from anywhere. Technology makes it possible." He met her eyes. "And everything that matters is here." "Nathan, I'm not asking for anything. I'm just telling you what I'm thinking." He reached for her hand. "You asked me what I was going to pursue. This is my answer. This place. These people. You." Lena felt her heart do something complicated in her chest. "You're serious?" "I've never been more serious about anything." "What about Chicago? Your company, your life?" "My company runs itself. Chicago's just buildings. And my life?" Nathan smiled. "My life has been empty for longer than I want to admit. Being here, doing this work, it's the first time I felt like I'm actually living instead of just existing. And if I told you I need time, that I'm not ready to figure out what this is, then I'd wait. I'd keep showing up, keep proving I'm not the guy who made that deal in a hotel room." Nathan's voice was steady. "I've got nothing but time, Lena, and for the first time I want to spend it on something real." Before Lena could respond, her phone rang. The factory. "Lena, it's your dad. You need to get down here, now." They arrived at the factory 15 minutes later to find police cars in the parking lot and workers gathered in confused clusters. Robert Carter met them at the door, his face ashen. Someone sabotaged the main production line, cut hydraulic hoses, damaged computer controls, poured something corrosive into the cooling system. "We're looking at weeks of repairs. Maybe months." "Webb?" Nathan said immediately. "We don't know that. Who else has motive?" Nathan pulled out his phone. "I'm calling my security team, getting cameras installed tonight, and I'm increasing the legal pressure. If he thinks sabotage will make you settle, he's wrong." Robert put a hand on Nathan's shoulder. "Thank you. But this isn't your fight." "Yes, it is. These are my people now, too." The words hung in the air. My people. Nathan had said it without thinking, without calculation. Just truth. Robert studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "All right, let's get to work." They spent the night securing the factory, installing cameras, changing locks, coordinating with police. Nathan worked alongside the crew, getting his expensive clothes dirty, learning how to repair hydraulic systems from Frank, who moved slow but knew everything. "You're not half bad at this," Frank said, watching Nathan reconnect a hose. "I'm terrible at this." "Yeah, but you're trying. That matters more than being good." Frank handed him a wrench. "You know what the difference is between someone like you and someone like Webb?" "What's that?" "You're here, getting your hands dirty, helping. Webb just takes and runs." Frank tightened a bolt. "Town needs more people like you, people willing to actually show up." Nathan didn't know what to say to that, so he just kept working. By dawn, the immediate damage was contained. The factory could limp along while repairs happened. It wasn't ideal, but it was survivable. Nathan found Lena in her father's office, staring at damage reports. "Hey," he said quietly. "Hey, you okay?" "No, but I will be." She looked up at him. "You didn't have to stay all night." "Yes, I did." "Why?" "Because this is what you do when you're part of something. You stay. You help. You don't run just because it's hard." Nathan sat down across from her. "Your father called me one of his people. No one's ever said that to me before. I've been an investor, a CEO, a name on a building, but never someone's people. And how does it feel? Like I finally understand what I've been missing." Nathan reached across the desk, took her hand. "I love you." The words came out simple, direct, like they'd been waiting years to be said. Lena stared at him. "What?" "I love you." I don't know when it happened. Maybe when you yelled at me for trying to buy the company. Maybe when you made me call my son. Maybe last night when you showed up covered in hydraulic fluid and still ready to fight. Nathan squeezed her hand. I just know it's true. And I needed you to know. Nathan, you don't have to say it back. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted to be honest. He stood up. I'm going to get some sleep. Then I'm going to help however I can. And I'm going to keep being here, keep showing up, until this is done. He walked to the door, then stopped. And Lena, I meant what I said about staying. Not because of you, though you're a big part of it, but because I finally found a place where I'm more than my bank account, where people see me as Nathan, not Nathan Cole, the billionaire. That's worth more than any deal I've ever made. Then he left, leaving Lena sitting alone in the office, trying to process what had just happened. The man who'd bought her time had just told her he loved her. The man who'd started as a monster had become someone real. And the scariest part was that she believed him. 3 months later, they won the lawsuit. Webb's claim was thrown out, his lawyers sanctioned for filing a frivolous suit. The judge ordered him to pay restitution for the sabotage. He'd been sloppy, left evidence, and his former partner had turned on him for immunity. The town celebrated with a party at the factory, workers and families gathering to mark the victory. Nathan stood on the sidelines, watching people laugh and dance and celebrate, feeling like he'd finally found where he was supposed to be. Lena found him there, handed him a beer. You did it, she said. We did it. No, you did this. You stayed. You fought. You became part of this place. She clinked her bottle against his. My dad was wrong about you. What'd he say? That you'd leave this first time things got hard. That rich guys always do. Lena smiled. But you didn't. You stayed, even when it was messy and exhausting and nothing like your real life. This is my real life now. Chicago's just where my mail goes. You're really staying? I'm really staying. Nathan set down his beer. I found a house, 3 bedrooms, needs work, but it's got good bones. I made an offer yesterday. 3 bedrooms, 1 for me, 1 for an office, 1 for Ethan when he visits. Nathan looked at her. Or for whoever needs it. I'm still figuring out what family looks like. Lena felt tears building. I love you too. Nathan went very still. What? I love you. I didn't want to. I spent weeks trying not to. But I do. She moved closer. You're not the same person who offered me that deal. You're someone better, someone real. And I love who you've become. Nathan pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. I don't deserve you. Probably not, but I'm choosing you anyway. They stood there while the party swirled around them, 2 people who'd started as a transaction and become something neither of them had expected, something real, something worth fighting for, something that looked a lot like love. Nathan bought the house on Maple Street in early spring when the trees were just starting to bud and the air smelled like possibility. It was a craftsman-style place built in 1952 with peeling paint and a porch that sagged on one side and windows that rattled when the wind blew. The real estate agent had called it a fixer-upper, which was code for disaster waiting to happen. Nathan loved it immediately. You're insane, Lena said, standing in the living room where wallpaper from 3 different decades competed for attention. This place needs everything. I know. The plumbing's ancient. The electrical's probably not up to code. That ceiling stain means roof damage. I know. So why buy it? Nathan ran his hand along the mantel, feeling decades of paint layers under his fingers. Because it's mine, not an investment property, not a status symbol, just a house that needs someone to care about it. He looked at her. Kind of like I needed someone to care about me. Lena shook her head, but she was smiling. You're getting sentimental in your old age. I'm 32. Like I said, old. They spent the next month renovating, which mostly meant Nathan learning how to do things he'd never done before, while Lena supervised and occasionally kept him from accidentally destroying load-bearing walls. Frank came by on weekends to teach him basic carpentry. Tommy helped rewire outlets. Maria brought her husband, who knew everything about plumbing and nothing about taking payment. You helped save our jobs, Maria's husband said when Nathan tried to pay him. This is just neighbors helping neighbors. Neighbors. Nathan had never been anyone's neighbor before. The work was hard and slow and nothing like the efficient, controlled world of business deals. Drywall didn't respond to negotiation. Paint didn't care about market value. You just had to show up, do the work, and hope it turned out okay. Nathan found he didn't mind. One Saturday afternoon, while Nathan was attempting to install a ceiling fan and failing spectacularly, Lena's father stopped by. "Heard you were trying to electrocute yourself," Robert said from the doorway. Nathan looked down from the ladder. "Just trying to install a fan. You know that wire's hot, right? It's supposed to be off." "Supposed to be isn't the same as is." Robert climbed up, tested the wire, and made a face. "You didn't flip the right breaker. You'd have fried yourself in about 30 seconds. Nathan climbed down, letting Robert take over. They worked in silence for a while, Robert's experienced hands making quick work of what Nathan had been struggling with for an hour. "I owe you an apology," Robert said finally. "For what?" "For judging you. For assuming you were like every other rich guy who sees small towns as investments instead of communities." He tightened a connection. "But you've proven me wrong. You stayed. You worked. You became one of us. I'm not sure I deserve that." "Deserve's got nothing to do with it. You show up or you don't. You help or you don't. You've been showing up." Robert climbed down. "That fan should work now. Just flip the breaker." Nathan did. The fan whirred to life. "Thank you," Nathan said. "For the fan? For giving me a chance, for letting me be part of this." Nathan sat on a sawdust-covered couch. "I spent my whole life trying to be someone important. Turns out I just wanted to be someone real." Robert sat down next to him. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "That deal you made with Lena, the one at the beginning." Robert's voice was careful. "Did you ever—" "No," Nathan said immediately. "I never touched her, never tried. The contract dissolved after 2 weeks and she stayed because she wanted to, not because she had to." "Why make that deal in the first place?" Nathan was quiet for a long time. "Because I was empty. Because I'd spent so long accumulating money and power that I forgot what it was for. I saw Lena, and I saw someone with real principles, real conviction, and I wanted to prove she was as hollow as everyone else." He looked at Robert. "I wanted to break her to prove I was right about the world." "That's honest." "It's ugly." "Sometimes honest is ugly." Robert stood up, offered Nathan his hand. "But you didn't break her. She broke you. And you let her rebuild you into something better." They shook hands, and Nathan felt something settle in his chest. Acceptance, maybe. Or forgiveness. Or just the simple acknowledgement that people could change if they were willing to do the work. That evening, Nathan drove to the airport to pick up Ethan. It had taken months of negotiations with Sarah, Ethan's mother, but she'd finally agreed to let him spend a week in the small town. Nathan had prepared obsessively, bought kid-friendly food, set up the bedroom with new furniture, downloaded games and movies and anything else an 7-year-old might want. He was terrified. Ethan came through the gate wearing a backpack almost as big as he was, looking uncertain and small, and so much like his mother that Nathan's chest hurt. "Hey, buddy," Nathan said, kneeling down. "Hi, Dad." They stood there awkwardly for a moment, two people who shared DNA but not much else. Then Ethan said, "Mom says you live in a small town now." "I do." "She says you're fixing up a house." "That's right." "Can I help?" Nathan felt something crack open inside him. Yeah, you can help." They drove to the house, Ethan chattering about school and friends and a science project about volcanoes. Nathan listened, really listened, in a way he'd never managed before. When they pulled up to the house, Ethan's eyes went wide. "This is yours?" "This is ours. Your room's upstairs. Want to see?" They went inside, and Nathan watched his son explore with the unfiltered excitement only children possess. Ethan loved the creaky stairs, loved the window seat in his bedroom, loved the backyard with its overgrown garden, an ancient oak tree perfect for climbing. "This is so cool," Ethan said, bouncing on his new bed. "It's like a real house." "What do you mean?" "I don't know. Our apartment in New York is nice, but it's just rooms. This feels like somewhere people actually live." Nathan sat down next to his son. "That's because it is. This is where I live now." "Forever?" "I don't know about forever, but for a long time." Ethan was quiet, picking at his bedspread. Then, "Do you like it better than Chicago?" "I like who I am here better than who I was in Chicago." "What's the difference?" Nathan thought about how to explain it to a 7-year-old. In Chicago, I was always working, always trying to make more money or close bigger deals. I was important, but I wasn't happy. Here, I'm just a guy fixing up a house and helping at a factory. I'm not important at all, but I'm happy. You seem different, Ethan said. On the phone, you sound like you're smiling more. I am smiling more. Is it because of Lena? Nathan looked at his son. Your mom told you about Lena? She said you have a girlfriend. Is that true? It's complicated. Mom says that's what adults say when they don't want to explain things. Nathan couldn't help but smile. Your mom's right. Yeah, I have a girlfriend. Her name's Lena, and she's... He stopped, trying to find words that would make sense. She's the person who helped me figure out how to be better. Can I meet her? You want to? Yeah, if she's important to you, I want to meet her. They had dinner at Lana's house that night, a casual thing with her father and Lena cooking while Nathan and Ethan set the table. Ethan was shy at first, hiding behind Nathan's leg, but Lena had a way with kids that came from growing up in a small town where everyone helped raise everyone else's children. You like video games? She asked Ethan. Yeah. What kind? Mostly Minecraft and Mario Kart. I'm terrible at Mario Kart. You'll have to teach me. Really? Really? After dinner? Ethan nodded enthusiastically, and just like that, the ice was broken. They ate spaghetti and talked about everything and nothing. Robert told stories about the factory in the old days. Lena told Ethan about growing up in a small town. Nathan just watched, feeling like he was seeing what family could actually look like when it wasn't broken. After dinner, Lena and Ethan played Mario Kart while Nathan helped Robert clean up. She's good with him, Robert said, scraping plates. She's good with everyone. You thinking long term? I'm trying not to think too far ahead, just taking it day by day. Nathan loaded the dishwasher. But yeah, I'm thinking long term. Good. She deserves someone who's all in. I'm all in. I just don't want to rush it. We started this thing wrong, and I want to do the rest of it right. Robert dried his hands and turned to face Nathan. Can I give you some advice? Please. My father told me something when I married Lena's mother. He said marriage isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone whose broken pieces fit with your broken pieces. Robert glanced toward the living room where Lena was laughing at something Ethan said. You and Lena, you're both broken in ways that fit. Don't waste time trying to fix yourselves before you build something together. Just build it together and fix it as you go. That's good advice. It's the only advice worth giving. That week with Ethan changed something in Nathan. He'd been trying so hard to be a good father from a distance, but having his son there, in his space, in his real life, made everything click into place. They worked on the house together, Ethan helping paint and sand and measure. They explored the town, Nathan showing his son the factory and the diner and the park. They had dinner with Lena most nights, the three of them falling into an easy rhythm that felt natural. On the last night before Ethan had to fly back, they sat on the porch watching fireflies. I don't want to go home, Ethan said quietly. I know, buddy, but your mom misses you. Can I come back? Anytime you want. This is your home too now. Ethan leaned against Nathan's shoulder. Are you going to marry Lena? The question surprised him. I don't know, maybe someday. Why? Because if you do, she'd be kind of like my stepmom, right? I guess so. That would be okay. I like her. Ethan yawned. She's nice. And she's not fake nice like some of Mom's friends. She's real nice. Real nice. That's a good way to put it. Dad? Yeah? I'm glad you moved here. You're happier. And when you're happier, I'm happier. Nathan pulled his son closer, feeling tears build. I love you, Ethan. I love you too, Dad. They sat there until Ethan fell asleep, Nathan carrying him inside and tucking him into bed. As he watched his son sleep, Nathan realized that this simple moment of being a father, was worth more than every deal he'd ever closed. After Ethan left, Nathan threw himself into the factory work. The lawsuit victory had given them breathing room, but there was still so much to rebuild. Nathan started working with Robert on long-term planning, using his business expertise to help modernize operations without losing the company's soul. He also started the foundation he'd mentioned months ago, the Cole Foundation for Working Communities, dedicated to supporting small towns and local businesses. Not handouts, not charity, but partnerships. Investment in people and places that had been forgotten by people like him. Lena helped him set it up, bringing her practical understanding of what communities actually needed versus what rich people thought they needed. You can't just throw money at problems, she explained during one planning meeting. You have to understand what the problem actually is first. So, what do communities need? Training programs, childcare, healthcare, investment in infrastructure. Lena pulled up a document. But also respect. Recognition that these places have value beyond their economic output. That the people here matter even if they're not profitable. Nathan listened, taking notes, learning from someone who'd lived this reality instead of studied it from a distance. The Foundation's first project was right there in town, a training program for advanced manufacturing, partnering with the community college to give workers new skills. Nathan insisted on hiring locally, paying well, and creating pathways for advancement. "You're losing money on this," one of his business partners from Chicago said during a video call. "I'm investing in people. That's not how investment works." "Maybe that's what's wrong with how we've been doing it." He ended the partnership that day. Some bridges needed burning. 6 months after moving to town, Nathan got a call from his ex-wife. "I'm getting remarried," Sarah said without preamble. Nathan felt a complicated mix of emotions. "Congratulations." "Don't be like that." "I'm being genuine. If you're happy, I'm happy for you." Silence. Then, "Really? Really? You deserve to be happy, Sarah. We weren't right for each other, but that doesn't mean I wish you anything but the best." "Who are you, and what have you done with Nathan Cole?" Nathan laughed. "I'm working on being better. I can tell. Ethan talks about you differently now, about the house, about Lena, about your life there." Sarah's voice softened. "He's proud of you. That's new." "I'm trying to give him something to be proud of." "Well, it's working, and Nathan, I'm sorry." "For what?" "For not believing you could change. For assuming you'd always be the workaholic who chose business over family. You've proven me wrong." "We both made mistakes." "Yeah, but you're fixing yours. That matters." They talked for another hour, working out details for Ethan's summer visit. It was civil, even friendly. Another bridge repaired instead of burned. That night, Nathan told Lena about the conversation. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Relieved. Like I can finally stop being angry about how things ended and just accept that they ended for good reasons." Nathan pulled her close. "I wasn't ready to be a husband back then. I wasn't ready to be a father. I wasn't ready to be anything except rich. And now? Now I'm ready to try, to actually show up for the people who matter." He kissed her forehead. "Speaking of which, there's something I want to talk to you about." "This sounds serious." "It is." Nathan took her hand. "I want you to meet someone." "Who?" "My father." Lena pulled back. "You never talk about your father." "Because we haven't spoken in 3 years. Not since I told him I thought his business practices were unethical, and he told me I was ungrateful." Nathan looked down. "But he's getting old, and I'm trying to be someone who repairs things instead of abandoning them. So I called him, and he agreed to meet. Here. He's coming here? Next week. And I need you with me because I'm terrified and you make me brave." Lena squeezed his hand. "Okay, I'll be there." Richard Cole arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, driving a car that cost more than most houses. He was 72, silver-haired, impeccably dressed, and looked at the small town like it was a museum exhibit of poverty. "This is where you've been hiding?" he said when Nathan met him at the house. "I haven't been hiding. I've been living." Richard walked through the house, taking in the renovations with a critical eye. "You did this yourself?" "With help from friends." "Friends? You have friends now?" "I have a lot of things now, including perspective." Nathan gestured to the porch. "Can we talk?" They sat outside, and for a while neither spoke. Then Richard said, "Your mother would have liked this place." The mention of Nathan's mother hung between them like smoke. "You never talk about her," Nathan said. "It's painful. So you just pretend she didn't exist?" "I work. Working keeps me from thinking about what I lost." Richard's voice was hard. "Just like you work to avoid thinking about your failed marriage." "You're right, I did. And it made me miserable." Nathan leaned forward. Dad, I called you because I'm trying to be different than we've been. I'm trying to break the cycle of men in our family who choose money over people. Money keeps people safe. Money kept me isolated, alone, convinced that caring about anyone was weakness. Nathan gestured at the town around them. These people don't have much money, but they have community, they have connection, they show up for each other, and that's worth more than any deal I've ever closed. Richard was quiet for a long time. Then, your mother used to say that I was choosing money over her. Was she right? Yes. The word came out broken. I thought if I made enough money, I could save her. Buy the best doctors, the best treatments. I thought money solved everything. Richard's hands shook. But it didn't, and when she died, all I had left was money, so I kept accumulating it because it was the only thing I knew how to do. Nathan felt tears building. Dad, don't. Don't pity me. I made my choices. I live with them. Richard stood up. But you don't have to make the same choices. You're doing something I never could. You're choosing people. It's not too late for you to choose people too. I'm 72. It's too late for me to change. That's what I thought about myself 6 months ago. I was wrong. Nathan stood. Stay for dinner. Meet Lena. Meet the people here. See what I'm building. Richard looked like he might refuse. Then he nodded. One dinner. They gathered at Lena's house. Lena, her father, Nathan, Richard, and a few factory workers who'd become friends. It was casual, loud, full of laughter and stories, and the kind of warmth that came from people who genuinely liked each other. Richard sat quietly, watching everything with unreadable eyes. After dinner, he pulled Nathan aside. She's not what I expected. Lena? Yes. I thought she'd be, I don't know, someone trying to get your money. She doesn't want my money. She wants me. Nathan smiled. And she makes me want to be someone worth wanting. You love her. I do. Richard nodded slowly. Your mother would have liked her too. It wasn't much, but coming from Richard Cole, it was everything. Before Richard left the next morning, he shook Nathan's hand. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for coming. I can't promise I'll change, but I'll try to be less of a bastard. Richard almost smiled. That's the best I can offer. That's enough. After Richard drove away, Lena found Nathan on the porch. That looked hard, she said. It was, but it was also necessary. Nathan pulled her close. I spent so long being angry at him, but he's just a broken person trying to survive his grief the only way he knows how. I can relate to that now. You're becoming wise in your old age. I'm 32. Ancient, practically decrepit. Nathan laughed and kissed her, and everything felt right. 3 months later, Nathan got a call that changed everything. A social worker from the state asking if he'd be willing to meet a child who needed emergency placement. Why me? Nathan asked. You've been vetted for the foundation work. You've got space. And this is a special case. The child has behavioral issues and has been rejected by 3 foster families already. We need someone with patience and resources. Nathan looked at Lena, who'd been listening. She nodded. Okay, Nathan said. Tell me about the child. Her name was Maya. She was 6 years old. Her mother had died from an overdose and her father was in prison. She'd been in the system for 8 months, bouncing between homes, growing more withdrawn each time. They met her at the social worker's office. Maya was small for her age, with dark eyes that looked like they'd seen too much, and a stubbornness in her jaw that reminded Nathan of Lena. Hi, Maya, Nathan said, kneeling down to her level. I'm Nathan. Maya didn't respond. I heard you like drawing. Still nothing. I'm not very good at drawing. Maybe you could teach me? Maya looked at him for the first time. You're really bad at it? The worst? Fine. But I'm not staying long. Nobody wants to keep me. The words broke Nathan's heart. Maya came home with them that afternoon, a trash bag of belongings and a sketchbook clutched to her chest. She was suspicious of everything, the house, the room they'd prepared, the food Lena cooked. She barely spoke and flinched when anyone moved too quickly. She's been through trauma, the social worker explained. Patience is key. Don't expect breakthroughs. Just be consistent. Nathan and Lena were patient. They gave Maya space. They established routines. They didn't push. And slowly, incrementally, Maya started to open up. She drew constantly, dark, complicated pictures that the social worker said were her way of processing trauma. Nathan started drawing with her, his stick figures making her laugh for the first time. "You're really bad," she said. "I told you." "Why are you trying if you're bad?" "Because being bad at something is better than not trying at all." Maya thought about that. That's dumb. Maybe, but it's true. Lena taught Maya to cook, simple things like scrambled eggs and grilled cheese. Maya burned everything at first, but Lena just laughed and showed her again. "My mom never taught me to cook," Maya said one night. "Well, now you're learning." "What if I leave and forget how?" Lena knelt down. "You're not going anywhere, Maya. This is your home for as long as you need it." "People always say that. Then they send me back." "We're not people. We're us. And we don't give up on people we care about." 6 weeks in, Maya had a breakdown. She'd had a nightmare, screamed, and when Nathan came to comfort her, she lashed out, hitting, kicking, screaming that she hated him and wanted to leave. Nathan just held her gently until she exhausted herself, then sat with her while she cried. "I'm sorry," Maya whispered. "You don't have to be sorry. I'm bad. That's why nobody keeps me." "You're not bad, Maya. You're hurt. There's a difference." Nathan brushed hair from her face. "And hurt people can heal if someone cares enough to help them." "How do you know?" "Because I was hurt too. And someone helped me heal." "Lena?" "Yeah, Lena." Maya was quiet for a moment. Then, "Can I stay? Really stay?" Nathan felt tears building. "Yeah, sweetheart. You can really stay." The next morning, Nathan called his lawyer. "I want to start adoption proceedings for Maya." "Nathan, you've only had her 6 weeks. I don't care. I want to make it permanent. I want her to know she has a home." The process took 4 months. 4 months of paperwork and interviews and evaluations. 4 months of Maya slowly believing that maybe this was real. 4 months of Nathan learning what it meant to be a father to a child who needed consistency more than anything else. The day the adoption was finalized, they had a small party at the house. Just close friends, Maya's social worker, and Lena's father. Maya wore a new dress she'd picked out herself and could not stop smiling. "You're really my dad now?" she asked Nathan for the 10th time. "I'm really your dad. Forever?" "Forever. Even if I'm bad?" "You're not bad. But even if you were, yes, forever." Maya threw her arms around Nathan's neck, and he held his daughter, and felt more complete than he'd ever felt in his life. That night, after Maya was asleep, Nathan found Lena on the porch. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For helping me become someone who could do this, someone who could open his home and his heart to a kid who needed it." Nathan sat down next to her. "A year ago, I would have written a check and called it charity. Now I have a daughter." "You have a daughter," Lena repeated, smiling. "How does it feel?" "Terrifying. Perfect. Like everything finally makes sense." Nathan took her hand. "There's something else I want to ask you." "What's that?" Nathan pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a ring. Simple, elegant, nothing ostentatious. "I know we started this wrong. I know I tried to buy you and you had every right to hate me. But you saw something in me worth saving, and you helped me become someone worth being." Nathan opened the box. "I love you, Lena. I love the life we're building. I love who I am when I'm with you. So I'm asking, will you marry me?" Lena looked at the ring, then at Nathan, then at the house where Maya slept peacefully for maybe the first time in her young life. "Yes," she said simply. "Yes, I'll marry you." Nathan slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her, and everything that had started as a transaction became something real. They got married 6 months later in a small ceremony at the factory. The entire town came, workers and families cramming into the space that Nathan had helped save. Maya was the flower girl, taking her job very seriously. Ethan was there too, beaming with pride at being part of something good. Robert walked Lena down the aisle, still weak but holding on to see his daughter marry a man who'd proven himself worthy. "You take care of her," Robert whispered to Nathan at the altar. "I will. I promise. And Nathan, thank you for saving more than just the factory. Thank you for saving my daughter from settling for someone who didn't deserve her. She saved me first. The ceremony was simple. No fancy decorations, no expensive details, just two people promising to build a life together, surrounded by the community that had taught Nathan what life actually meant. When the pastor asked if anyone objected, Maya called out, "I object to this taking so long. I'm hungry." The whole room erupted in laughter, and Nathan realized he'd never been happier. At the reception, Nathan's father showed up. He'd driven 12 hours, hadn't told anyone he was coming, and stood awkwardly by the door until Nathan saw him. "You came," Nathan said. "I wanted to see what my son built." Richard looked around at the celebration. "It's remarkable. It's real." "Yes, it is." Richard handed Nathan an envelope. "I'm dissolving my company, selling everything, starting a charitable foundation with the proceeds." Nathan stared at the envelope. "Dad, you were right. Money without purpose is just numbers, and I'm tired of numbers." Richard's eyes were wet. "Your mother would be proud of you. I'm proud of you." They embraced, two men who'd spent years broken finally beginning to heal. The party went late, music and dancing and joy spilling out into the warm summer night. Nathan danced with his wife, with his daughter, with his son. He talked with workers and friends and people who'd become family. At one point, he found himself standing with Frank, watching everyone celebrate. "You did good, kid," Frank said. "I just showed up." That's all anyone can do. Show up, do the work, care about people. Frank clapped him on the shoulder. "You turned out all right." As the night wound down and people filtered home, Nathan stood with Lena and Maya, looking at the factory that had brought him here. "What are you thinking?" Lena asked. "I'm thinking about how a year ago I walked into a hotel room thinking I was going to prove someone's principles were fake. And instead I learned that everything I thought mattered didn't, and everything I thought was weak turned out to be the only thing worth having." That's very philosophical for someone who spent the day drinking champagne. Nathan laughed. "I'm saying I'm grateful for you, for Maya, for this place, for the chance to become someone better. You were always someone better. You just needed help finding him." They went home. Home. Not a house, but a real home. And tucked Maya into bed. She was asleep before her head hit the pillow, exhausted from the excitement. Nathan and Lena sat on the porch, just like they'd done countless times before. "So what now?" Lena asked. "Now we live. We raise our daughter. We help where we can. We build something that matters." Nathan pulled her close. "We keep showing up." "For how long? Forever? Or until we get it right? Whichever comes first." Lena laughed and kissed him, and somewhere in the distance, the factory hummed with the sound of people working third shift, and the town slept peacefully, and everything that had been broken found a way to heal. Because that's what happens when people choose connection over isolation, when they choose to show up instead of running away, when they choose to be better instead of just being rich. Nathan Cole had spent 32 years accumulating wealth and power, thinking that was what mattered. It took one desperate woman and 30 days to teach him that the only wealth that mattered was the kind you built with other people. The only power worth having was the power to change yourself. And the only thing that made life worth living was showing up for the people who needed you, day after day, even when it was hard. He'd started as a billionaire who thought he could buy anything. He'd become a father, a husband, a neighbor, a friend. And in the end, that was worth more than any fortune he'd ever made.